What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. So funnily enough, being on Need for Speed, I also got another idea I think would actually work not only in Motorfest, but pretty much any racing game if it was done correctly. That is going to come down to a betting system in PvP or even the regular events. We did see something like this in Need for Speed Unbound, even though it was kind of simplistic. You obviously could bet on one person and start the event, and then depending on the vehicle you actually wanted to use was going to be a higher stake. Like, for example, if I did pick the Ford Raptor, it's going to be a $13,000 bet on ASAP Rocky, and it's also going to be a bit higher on the other, like, competitors like Medusa and stuff. But if they were to do this in, like, an actual racing game to where it was on PvP, can you guys imagine for a second on the way this would actually end up working? We do know right now if you were to have, like, a betting system on the actual, like, playlist events in Motorfest, it could work, but at the same time, I would probably say it's going to be a better system to have to bet on PvP. I really don't know why that came out like that. But if you were to do this on PvP though, can you guys imagine being able to bet on the other racers? We also do know something like this is going to be in Grand Theft Auto Online to where you can put like a few grand on them. You can even bet on yourself or like bet on your friend or like bet on someone you actually think would end up winning. And the crazy part though is a concept like this would probably work insanely well, at least in a multiplayer aspect compared to like a single player. We do know something like this did kind of work in Unbound, but let's be honest though, betting around $2,000 into a race where you even have to buy into it is probably not going to really make a lot of players that happy, including myself. Like, I did make a video about like a buy-in feature. That would most likely be a lot better. I'll leave a tag on the screen for that, but if we are looking at like an entire betting system though, probably mainly on a PvP game mode, is probably going to be the best way to do that. Now, if you did want to do it though, maybe the better way is to have a separate game mode to where you obviously can bet on the other racers. Like, imagine being able to jump into like a separate game mode to where you can bet around maybe, let's say, $10,000 to $15,000 on the racers. And in that aspect, you can even bet on yourself, like, yeah, I'm going to be the best racer here, so I'm going to put 15 grand on myself. And then if you end up losing the event or something, you obviously lose the money that way. One of the other ways, though, is if you do bet on a lot of racers, let's say you did notice someone doing really well, you end up going against them in the second event, let's go put 10 grand on them. They do end up winning for you, so you actually get like a bonus of like 15 or 20 grand back. After betting on that person, they do end up winning. I do feel like something like that wouldn't be game breaking because it's not a ton of money, and a lot of players are most likely at that point in the game going to have a lot of money anyway. So they're like, you know what, let's go bet some of this on some racers, and like even having like separate challenges that do actually tie into the entire like game mode to where you can bet on the other racers. I would say having this as like a separate game mode probably is a better way to do it. That way if you do just want to like, casually jump into like a PvP game mode and most likely have a good time in there, not have to worry about being like betted against or like, having to bet some of your money on a different racer. That way you don't have to. Now, one of the other things I was thinking about with this, though, is what if they actually added rewards that were tied into something like the betting system? I would even say in some ways something like this could obviously go into other aspects of the game. For example, though, one way I was thinking about this, maybe you can actually get rewards or even do like different challenges that could be tied into like the betting system. Like, for example, you might end up betting on yourself for like $10,000 or $15,000, and you actually do end up winning that race. Maybe you might get like a special rim or like even a tire vanity or even like a nitrous thing. I feel like something like that would be a lot more rewarding, but honestly though, having a lot more challenges like this in the game is probably needed not only for the betting system, even get more rewards if you were actually winning more bets or at least even betting on players that were winning more often. Now we do know some of this could obviously be based on like an RNG thing to where you might not always be in a lobby with some people that might actually be winning constantly. Like if you were to put 15 grand on them and they do end up losing, yeah, you're going to be out $15,000, but luckily it's not a ton of money though. What if you can all actually put your bets onto like one person or like everybody puts different bets on them? That way you're all still going to get money regardless of your placement at the end of that event. For example though, let's say you did end up betting on one of the events and that way you actually do want to end up trying to win. We all do know sometimes the PvP races don't obviously go our way. This can also go in single player as well to like you mess up in the beginning or like you do end up like sliding off the road or something like that. But what if you do still end up getting in like the top 5 or something? What if you can bet in like placement? Let's say I'm going to bet around $15,000 or $20,000 on myself. that I am at least going to get in the top 5 or even like the top 3 of the race. You do end up getting like the 3rd place or something. That way you do end up getting the 20 grand. And if you actually get first, maybe you get like an extra 10 or 15,000 on top of it. On top of the actual racing earnings you do end up getting. I do feel like a betting system would honestly be pretty dang awesome in a racing game. Now I do admit though, at this point I probably have come up with a tad too many ideas that most likely may never end up actually happening, but it would honestly be kind of funny to come back to some of these videos in like a year or two from now and go, oh my goodness, that actually was added. That would probably be one of the funniest things ever. But I would like to know what you guys think about like an entire betting system here in Motorfest. Do you think something like this would end up working? I do feel like any of these things in PvP would probably not only make it better, but most likely bring a lot more players in to actually compete in this stuff.